Alright, so first here we're going to talk about angles and angles in standard position. Before we get into angles in standard position though, I want to introduce a Greek symbol that's going to come up a lot within trig, and that is this symbol right here, theta. That's how it's pronounced. I guess if you are Greek, maybe you say it differently. I've heard it's said theta. But I always say theta. I do apologize. I'm not trying to offend anybody by that. But here are some other Greek symbols that we see a lot. So the reason why I bring this up is Greek symbols are usually used to represent angles within trigonometry. Not always, but it's very common. So we want to get comfortable seeing them. Okay. So what's an angle? An angle is created by rotating a ray about its endpoint. If you've taken geometry, you understand what a ray is. A ray is something that looks like this, where it has an endpoint and then goes off to infinity in one direction, as opposed to a line, which goes off to infinity in both directions, or a line segment, which has two endpoints. So the initial side is the starting position of the ray. The terminal side, so think terminal, right? That like terminate, that's where it ends. Initial is where it begins. So the terminal side is the ending position of the ray after some rotation, and it's the rotation that creates the angle. The vertex is the endpoint of the ray, which is rotated. So if we draw an angle, I can say this is my initial side, and then we're going to have some side here where this is the rotation, so that's my angle theta. So this is initial, this is terminal, and then the vertex would be this point right here. So that's just an angle, right? And these are the important parts of an angle that we need to understand. The initial side, the terminal side, the vertex. The direction of the rotation is going to be important here in a little bit when we talk about the standard position of an angle. Before we talk about standard position of an angle, we want to make sure we understand our quadrants. So here we have a blank coordinate plane. Pause the video, take a second, label the quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. Unpause when you're ready to discuss them. Okay, great job. Hopefully you labeled the same as I did here, where the upper right-hand corner is quadrant 1, and then we go around counterclockwise. So this is quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. That's going to be really important when we're talking about trig, because a lot of times we deal with quadrants, with trig, and this will all come up later. But it's going to be really important for the next part, which is when we talk about an angle in what we call standard position. So the angle that I drew before, this is just some arbitrary angle in space. But a lot of times when we're dealing with trig, we're referring to angles in standard position. And an angle in standard position has a vertex at the origin, and so origin here, and it has an initial side on the positive side of the x-axis. So that is going to be here. So that's our initial side. This will be our terminal side. And this is my angle in standard position. We do want to understand, though, that not all angles are going to be what we call acute, which is less than 90 degrees. So I can also have, here's an angle, here's my initial side, and here is my terminal side. And so here's my angle theta. Or I can even be larger than 180 degrees, which again, if you've had geometry, you didn't deal with angles usually larger than 180 degrees. So my angle could be this, where again, here's initial, and terminal. Here is initial and terminal, and last time initial and terminal. And so the big thing we want to get from this is an angle in standard position when the initial side of the angle is on the positive side of the x-axis and the vertex is at the origin. From here on out, most angles where we're going to refer to are going to be in standard position. So unless it's otherwise specified, if we're talking about an angle, it's probably in standard position.